Welcome back, everybody. We're here to kind of conclude this episode of our fantasy football running back rankings. We're not really going in list as far as we did with quarterbacks because quarterbacks you get top 15, you're golden. Everybody else is kind of like a substitute like have a guy. But with running backs, in every league I've been in, you can have multiple running backs. So, with that being said, we're going to continue on with it. Continue our discussion about the running backs. Possibly bring you some sleepers, some people that you're kind of unaware of. To help you win your guys' fantasy football leagues.
Yeah. Check out the last episode. We went over guys that are going to be your running back ones and twos. And now we'll get into a little bit of the flex guys and guys you want to stash on your bench that could be potential league winners. So I want to start it off with two guys that I think are guys that I want as my flex. And I know we mentioned one of them in the last episode, but I have them stacked right together, and that's Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman. We know that the Niners run that committee backfield, and those are two guys that have the potential to get a lot of touches and be on a really good team. So that two combination, I just like to have, especially as a flex. So I have the Niners ranked as the number 9 offensive line in the league. So having these guys run behind that line on an efficient offense is something you want to have.
Yeah, the fact that you have them ranked number 9, and that I think that is before they had Trent Williams.
No, that's after.
See what he's doing now. Well, I don't know if you've seen him go head-to-head with Nick Bosa out there in practice. I've seen any kind of thing he's on Twitter. That matchup is nasty. I like to see that one-on-one. It's something that I'd like to.
I have them. Yeah, I write down all the things that I have for offensive line. I know they added Trent Williams, and I think that actually might be an upgrade for this year. So
I think so as well.
Yeah, they're a great run blocking offensive line, and the two other articles that I read for offensive line is PFF, the score, and then the Ross Tucker. He also had him, and they had him at 8, 9, and 10. So I averaged those out. That's how I got the number 9.
Gotcha. Yeah, when it comes down to it, reading, especially nowadays, since there's not a lot of media besides the local beat writers for each team, kind of have to trust what they say. That's something I've always done for the 49ers, and following all these beat writers and see what they're I see that Raheem Mostert's put on a little bit more weight, kind of lean muscle to be more of the bell cow there. But as you were just saying, they run more of the committee backfield kind of platoon type of thing there. Whoever has a hot hand, go and feed it. Because if you see in a lot of the games, it was Tevin Coleman getting a start, but a majority of the touches and carries, it was given to Raheem Mostert. And then when it came down into the red zone, it seems that Tevin Coleman came back into the game and started taking over, especially with Jet McKinnon and Jeff Wilson there as well. We'll see as far as what goes on there. I think the McKinnon's going to be more of the third down type of guy, but I'm hoping Raheem Mostert kind of takes a lot more touches away from Tevin Coleman, because believe it or not, Tevin Coleman with a 4.39 is the slowest out of that backfield.
Yeah, I think they're just going to go with the hot hand on that. And the two things that I always try to avoid listening to are beat writers and guys that added or lost weight. I think those are two really overrated things. Of course, the beat writers are going to say whatever they say about their team. And how many times do we hear something that doesn't end up working out throughout the season? And then I've never been like, oh, this guy added or lost weight, and that's why he succeeded that year. I just think those are just talking points that people need to hear when there's no football going on right now.
I just think that more of the beat writers are a little bit more to be trusted, only because of this year of everything that's been going on with the limited amount of people and no one feels that they can trust or the actual.
I'm the opposite, man. Don't trust the beat writers. They need to stay in good. They need to stay in good with the players to interview them and talk, and they have to look them in the face every day. So, you don't really ever hear them saying negative stuff. So moving on, you got any rookies that you want to hit on? I got from about 30 to 40. I have 3 rookies in this one little area that I
Well,
take a shot on right there.
well, continue on to what I was talking about last episode. A couple guys that I actually thought of that I didn't even think to ask you. So the whole situation in Detroit,
Yep.
They have Carry On Johnson there, who's actually a solid running back.
Yep.
Produced pretty well fantasy football wise. Never really was a top tier running back in the NFL, but they bring on this rookie DeAndre Swift. So who do you think takes more touches this year? Is it Swift, or do they kind of run it back by committee?
So I'm going with DeAndre Swift for sure. I've never really been a big fan of On Johnson. I think he's a decent player. I just don't think he's a guy that you want to use as your, number one bell cow type of guy. He'd be great if he came in and spelled Swift. So, DeAndre Swift was a second round pick, but it was a third pick in the second round. So he's pretty much right there in the first round. And, this is, Matt Patricia. He likes to run the ball. And this is a guy that I like because he does have a lot of help, as in getting people out of the box. They have 3 good receivers, when they're in 11 personnel to spread out the field. And then they have a good tight end. Stack that with a top 20 offensive line, and DeAndre Swift and Carry On Johnson should both be able to get in some open space and take advantage of those light boxes. So I'm going with DeAndre Swift. I have him at exactly number 30. Moving on to Cam Akers, I have him at number 34. He was another guy I had in that next little group. Another guy that was a second-round pick for the Rams, and this is his opportunity to step in and pick up where Todd Gurley kind of left off last year. I think that Henderson will be their third down type of guy. Malcolm Brown will be also rotating in. So it could turn into a 3-back committee. Who knows? But my money's on Cam Akers. Their offensive line isn't that good. They've lost some guys the last couple of years, so I have them down at 26. And we still know McVay, Jared Goff is capable of just creating these top running backs. So he's a guy I'll take a shot on definitely as a flex, probably a running back number 4 type of dude.
All right, I got a couple more rookies to ask you. The next one right here. So in Buffalo Bills, they drafted Zach Moss. Pretty sure it was the 3rd round. Running back at Utah. So they have Motor Singletary, Zach Moss. How do you think that will go?
That's another really Zach Moss. I kind of think he's a complimentary back. I don't think he's going to just take it over from Singletary. So I do have Singletary. Where do I have him? I have him at number 23. So he's another guy that I think Singletary, he's decent. He's another O-line dependent, slower type of running back, but Zach Moss will be able to come in there and kind of mix things up a little bit. Their offensive line and their quarterback, I have top 20. So he could be able to make a little bit of noise, but he's not a guy that I'm going to really be counting on for, a starting running back. I have him ranked at number 39. I know Buffalo does like to rush the ball a lot, so they're averaging about 29 rushes per game. So he's a guy, I'll take a flyer on him, but definitely after Swift and Akers. Antonio Gibson, I'm not going to draft any of Antonio Gibson.
Okay.
I just haven't seen enough from him. I feel like he has no help there. I mean, quarterback, I have them as the worst quarterback in the league, number 32. They don't really have any backup quarterbacks. Their offensive line is pretty bad. I have them ranked at number 30. Their coach is going through a little bit of a medical thing right now, so he might be in and out. I think just all the odds are stacked against him this year. So Antonio Gibson, I will let someone else get him, and I'd rather take a shot on a guy that's ranked lower than most, like A.J. Dillon or, and I don't even really want those guys, but I think they just have a higher upside than Antonio Gibson has.
So, which goes on into, with that being said, let's go on to kind of like our sleepers type
Mhm.
of deals. Somebody that kind of goes underneath the radar. So, with the Buccaneers, they brought in Keyshawn Vaughn from Vanderbilt,
Yep.
which I thought was a smart move. But what they did is they also bring back Shady McCoy.
Hmm.
And so I'm not 100% sure what that does for Ronald Jones there. So with that being said, I actually think Ronald Jones is going to be a sleeper. So when it comes down to it, every team, I think since the Bills that Shady McCoy's been on, he's kind of been more of like the, substitute, kind of give your running back a breather type of running back. Hasn't been a lead guy since his days in Buffalo. So
Hmm.
I think that with that being said, the number one guy in that offense or in that backfield is going to be Ronald Jones, but he's not going to get a lot of love because of they got Shady McCoy there. So I'm actually excited to see what Ronald Jones can do this year. I liked him coming out of USC. I know a lot of people didn't really like him last year, but he's actually one of my sleepers. Somebody who I take a late round flyer on and hoping that he just starts kicking ass.
Where do you have him ranked at?
I have him ranked. Let's see here. I have him ranked about. I'm pretty sure it's the same as.
Because I think average draft position definitely isn't sleeping on. They have him as number 29. So I'm 6 lower than that. I have him at 35. I think he'll definitely be the guy in that backfield this year, and he has a ton of help. I mean, probably one of the best wide receiver cores in the league. Tom Brady coming in, elite tight ends. They upgraded their line. I have him at the number 13 offensive line. So I think Ronald Jones has every opportunity to be that guy this year. So I don't think it's going to be Keyshawn Vaughn. One thing that I uh, heard is that he's doing all the kick returning, so kick and punt returning. So that tells me that you don't usually have your starting running back being your kick returner. So he's going to be a complimentary third down type of back guy. And then you got the old Wiley vet and Shady McCoy, who I think could also come in there and steal those third down passing downs from Ronald Jones. So I don't think Ronald Jones is going to be a top 20 running back this year, but I do think he will have a role as like a flex player, and he'll be valuable some weeks. So I think he'll do better than he's done in his past years. So yeah, that's where I got Ronald Jones.
And
Did you find where you had him at?
yeah, I had him about 30,
Oh, 30.
32.
Okay. So yeah, he's
Yeah, I
right on
I
pace.
have right on pace as far as ADP, but I have him a little bit lower just because I hear a lot of people when I'm talking to people in my league actually bring him up. They're
Mhm.
like, oh well, now they've brought Shady McCoy, I want to draft Shady McCoy. I'm like, hey, draft him because I think I'm one guy so than Ronald Jones. Leaves me to draft him in the late rounds. So I know we're talking about crowded backfields, and another crowded backfield I like to talk about is the New England Patriots backfield. They have
Mhm.
Sonny Michel, James White, Rex Burkhead, and a young guy in Damian Harris.
They also got Lamar Miller.
And they got Lamar Miller. How did I forget about that?
So I have all those guys outside of the top 35.
Yeah.
Sonny Michelle and James White are the top two guys I have that are probably going to be leading them in touches. And I'm actually a little bit higher than most on Sonny Michelle. I have him ranked number 35. But he's a guy that I think he needs that volume to kind of produce. He's not a pass catching running back. He's not that explosive or elusive. And of course, this New England backfield is just unpredictable. So that's why I have him there at 35. James White, I'm not high on James White this year. He's probably one of my biggest drops. I have him 15 spots below ADP. They have him at 31. I have him at 46. And that's just because, you know, he got a lot of targets when Tom Brady was there. And I think he is kind
Exactly.
of a product of Tom Brady. If you remember before Christian McCaffrey got to uh, Carolina. Cam Newton wasn't a check down type of guy. He's a big arm. He wants to get it down the field type of dude. So Christian McCaffrey kind of changed that for him because he was so good at, turning those little short passes and stuff into yardage. So I think he kind of grew on him, and that's why they used him. Another thing with James White is 73% of the time he was not in the top 30 running backs. So that's a huge bust rate. It's like almost impossible to kind of choose when he's going to be right, being a top 20 running back. So I just think he's a Brady guy. I probably won't be taking much of him this year. So that's it. Where'd you have him at?
Yeah, I kind of have him in the same type of deal as you, only because, like you're saying, when it came to, I remember hearing some interviews like, "Hey, what's your preferred running back?" He said James White when it came to Tom Brady. So James White, he just does everything correct. So as far as him being a product of Tom Brady, I couldn't agree with you more. I do like. I still, I would have to put James White a little bit ahead of Sony Michelle. I have James White about 41, and I have Sony Michelle about 40.
Yeah, I think average draft position definitely has James White above Sony Michelle. Let's see that. Yeah. So I think you're on pace with that right there. But honestly, I just don't want any of this Patriots running backs this year.
No, I've never been a fan of picking any of them besides um, only James White, but that was with like a late round flyer. I know
Yep.
really, that's just if one of my running backs went down or running backs had a bye, I'd pick him for sure. So let's go to the Pittsburgh Steelers running back.
Mm-hmm.
They have James Conner. James Conner is their lead guy, without a doubt. He seems to be going into the camp healthy, which is good, but they also have some running backs bleeding down with their neck with Benny Snell. Jalen Sanders seems to be the odd man out because they drafted little booger or little jitterbug.
Jalen Samuels.
Jalen Samuels.
Yep.
He seems to be the odd man out now.
Yeah, and then Anthony McFarland. So to me, it's James Conner all day. I think the only reason those other guys got any type of touches last year was because James Conner was hurt and didn't really get to finish the season. So they also, Big Ben wasn't there. That offense wasn't what it could have been last year at all. So James Conner to me is a very efficient runner. So I think he's going to take advantage of every carry that they give him. He's in a great offense. I still think that they have a pretty good offensive line. That's probably the strength of their team. And Big Ben, I still have him as a top 15 quarterback. So he knows that offense. Not much has changed. Not much has changed there. So Benny Snell, James Conner, I have at 17. Benny Snell, Jalen Samuels, I have is not even draftable. And then Anthony McFarland, I have is a late round dude. I have him at 68. So I would probably take. I really was not impressed with Benny Snell last year. He did the hard nosed job, but I just think, I didn't see much explosion from him. So I expect them to be back on track with James Conner.
Gotcha. All right, so let's go to the NFC side. I'm going to go ahead and take a swing with the Green Bay Packers. I know you were fairly, I wouldn't say fairly high on them as average people are with Aaron Jones. But they have Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams, and the new rookie. I think his claws might be a little bit bigger than Saquon Barkley, but AJ Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
So where do you have them ranked respectively? I know that Aaron Jones was, I want to say was he inside or just outside your top 10?
He's inside. I have him at number 8. So
Okay.
I could see him falling off a little bit this year just because he had 16 touchdowns last year, and I don't think he's going to get that again this year, especially with Dillon being there. So he's a little bit touchdown dependent. He also led the league in red zone carries, and out of those red zone carries, that's where 14 of his touchdowns came from. So if you kind of sub in Dillon for those red zone short yardage touchdowns, that's exactly where I could see his Aaron Jones's touchdowns being cut in half to about 8 this year. So I want a piece of this backfield. If it's Aaron
Okay.
Jones or AJ Dillon, I'm not going to draft Jamal Williams. He's just not my type of player and not a guy that I think is going to get the job done. I will go with AJ Dillon because, hey, he was one of their top draft picks and he was very productive in college. He's very durable. He's a great pass blocker. He even has some hands. I've seen him catch the ball out of the backfield, and he's just that hard downhill runner that I think uh, Green Bay wants to go with. So team him up with Aaron Jones, and I think they're going to have a great backfield behind the sixth ranked offensive line in the league. So give me any one of those guys.
Yeah, I'm liking Dylan a lot. I mean, I had some discussion with my friends. And one of the things that we brought about, I don't know if you remember this, but when we were younger, there was always a guy that you didn't want to go against in the Thunderdome drill. Yep. So you always had to act like, oh man, my shoulder pads are loose. I got to tie my cleats. Yep. I think that guy might be AJ Dillon. I'm important to get this guy.
He's the guy you count down the line during the ankle tackle. Damn it, he's 5 and I'm 5. So yeah, he's definitely that dude.
It's like, Coach, I gotta go take a shit. I'll be right back. Yep. All right, let's swing back to the AFC side. I'm going to talk about I want to talk to you about the Miami Dolphins backfield. So they got Jordan Howard, they got newcomer Matt Breida, Kalen Ballage, and Patrick Laird. So
Myles Gaskin as well.
Myles Gaskin. Oh my God, Myles Gaskin still in this league. All right. So it looks like, looking at ESPN right now, they have Jordan Howard as number one running back in that one. And then you also got the change of pace in Matt Breida. Hopefully he can clean up his fumbles. I know he had a little bit of a fumble problem over there in San Francisco. So I'm really hoping that he can clean it up because I've been a fan of him. Great story. Undrafted, coming in the league at 2017, and just, it was actually the Penn's last 2 seasons he's been clocked in at the fastest football player in the NFL as far as the guy with the ball in his hand. So, yeah.
So I have these guys kind of opposite of what I had with the Niners running backs, or that we just talked about, Green Bay's running backs. I have them both ranked, stacked right next to each other at 42 and 43, and actually have Breida above Howard there. So I think these are going to be the 2 running backs that they go with for the season. It's just, man, these guys got no help. The 31st ranked line, not much receiving help. Quarterback, they're either going to have a rookie coming in, which usually isn't good for fantasy players, or they're going to go Fitzmagic again. So I don't really like that. Breida's going to man third downs for sure. Jordan Howard's going to get the early downs, so no one's going to really get those elite amount of carries or touches that you want. So their team, I mean, they only average 21 rush attempts per game and 72 yards as a team rushing last year. So this is a team where I'll let someone else gamble on these guys. I can't go with them.
Yeah, it's super hard to gamble with these guys. I mean, Jordan Howard, how much does he have left in the tank? We know that running backs don't have a lot left these days. And Jordan Howard seems he left his best days in Chicago. I'm not 100% sure he has much left. We'll see. I know they brought in a couple of new guys in their offensive line with Austin Jackson. We'll see what he can do. I know that he didn't get a fair shake at USC because of the whole bone marrow transplant for his sister. But I don't think that he's a weak link on that line. If you go back to anybody, it's Eric Flowers. I mean, you should know best. He was in the NFC West. I mean, he got picks on left and right. I can't trust that guy. And with that being said, it's hard for me to want to touch anybody in the backfield of the Miami Dolphins besides Matt Breida.
Yeah, they're actually moving Eric Flowers to guard too.
Oh, okay.
So they're taking him away from that edge and just giving him one more shot. But they have a lot of rookies on the offensive line. Austin Jackson was in the first round, Robert Hunt in the second, and Kinley in the fourth. So they just got a lot of young guys that you probably can't depend on quite yet. And yeah, I just don't see that big of an upside for these guys. Both of them on
Yeah, it
new teams too.
might be a little faster on the inside for Eric Flowers too. It might not slow down. So we'll
Yeah,
see.
good luck.
Let's see here. All right, I got some players that aren't starters. Kind of, I want to say we'll spell some guys out. Instead of going into further detail of them, I just kind of want you to pick one or the other. Maybe give me a slight reason why. So, all right, I'm going to give you either Boston Scott or Naheem Hines.
Boston Scott. Naheem Hines, I think he's kind of on his way out. I think he was
Okay.
good for what he did. It's just he's not going to get that many touches. I mean, he's a third down running back, and they got two guys in front of him. So I kind of think Marlon Mack's going to take over that role a little bit. Naheem Hines might move back to kind of a returner type of thing. So I'm not drafting Naheem Hines. I will take Boston Scott. I have him ranked number 48. I think he has a lot of offensive help. So I like that his offensive line is top 10. I like that his quarterback is top 10. And he's a really efficient runner. When he got his hands on the ball, he made the most of it last year.
Mhm.
So I just like his running style. And paired with this offense, if anything happens to Miles Sanders or even when they spell him, I think Boston Scott could do some damage. So especially in PPR, he'll get his hands on the ball. So I'll take Scott.
Couldn't agree with you more. I was going to try to poke a hole in that one, but it's hard to because, yeah, everything you said as far as Boston Scott. All right, let me see if I can get you on this one. Alexander Madison or Darrell Henderson?
I'm going with Madison on this one, just because I saw what he did last year, and
Mm-hmm.
we know Dalvin Cook and his injury history. If he goes down, Madison has the opportunity to step in and be, on a high rushing team, another efficient runner with the point per touch type of guy. And I think he's one of the most valuable handcuffs in the fantasy football draft coming up. The only thing I don't like about him is he doesn't get many targets out of the backfield. But yeah, I would take him over Henderson any day. You know, Rams just have that crowded backfield. We don't know exactly how it's gonna even out. So I got Darrell Henderson as more of the third down back type of dude. So give me Mattson.
Yeah, with that being, I think I lean toward more towards Darrell Henderson,
Mm-hmm.
and it all comes down to the coaching aspect of things. I seem to like, I think to like, I like McVay a little bit better as far as when the running games goes, but then again, same could be said is you got Kubiak there now, or things from Minnesota, so that's kind of hard to choose between the two. But when it comes down to fantasy football wise, I think that Darrell Henderson's going to get a little bit more touches, get a little bit more passes out of the backfield, and like you said, he's the third down back, so he's going to get those catches, possibly a first down, and that's a couple points right there for you.
Yeah. Madsen and Darrell Henderson had the same amount of catches last year, or catches per game. But I tip it towards Minnesota because they ran the ball 30 times a game at 127 yards per game. And the Rams just didn't live up to it last year, under 25 rush attempts per game at 93 yards per game. So I just think Minnesota is way better on the ground than they are.
All right, I'm going to give you two guys that aren't starters. They both have solid, very, very solid offensive lines. One's probably a little bit higher than the um, in the running game type of thing. So I have Jet McKinnon,
Mm-hmm.
and then I have Tony Pollard.
So with me, I'd take Pollard. And the only reason why is if Zeke goes down, Pollard's immediately going to shoot up and be a top 15 to 20 running back, if not higher. He's on a great offense, great offensive line. So the only reason I don't have him ranked higher right now is just because Zeke's there and he's a bell cow running back. So Pollard just comes in there. He gets a couple targets here and there, low touches. He's the kick returner. But yeah, I'd take Pollard just because of the upside if something does happen to Zeke. But one thing I will say about McKinnon, if he's there with my last pick of any draft, I'm taking him. To me,
Yeah.
he's my favorite San Francisco running back, and he's on a team that rushes it like top 3 in the NFL. So I'll take that any day. Before his injury, I was a big fan of him in Minnesota. If this committee stuff, I think they're going to roll with the hot hand. And if McKinnon comes in there and proves himself, I could see them rolling with him. So, if last pick of the draft, if McKinnon's there, I'm taking him.
Yeah, with this one, I'd have to go between coordinators on this one, and Mike McDaniel is the running game coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to go with McKinnon for sure. That wide zone, it could. I think when you watching him in that wide zone is going to be something special because he's the guy that Kyle Shanahan personally saw that after when he came a free agent, paid him all that money. It'll be his first time in there, so he has something to prove. So he's playing with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And watching his workouts as far as him trying to get his rhythm back after his ACL surgery, one thing he did practice on is something that me and you have always been a fan on is actually contact balance. Doing the whole thing, which Alvin Kamara is doing on that half Bosa ball, throwing in those pigs where you go pick color and have him catch it.
Yep.
He's a valuable asset out of the backfield when it comes to pass catching, and if you line him up in the backfield, he just that decisiveness as far as plant and go is great, and he's also good about when it comes to wide zone type of things, having those running backs run those defenders into their blocks is something that he's been very good at. And he's even back there in the kick return group. So it's another thing comes down to it. When it comes down to fantasy football wise, we do get a little bit of points when it comes to that. So I'm gonna go with Jet McKinnon on this one.
He's probably your biggest sleeper.
Yeah, I think he is. I think he is for sure.
Because he's one of mine, and if you're higher than him than Pollard, then he's probably your big. Because I'm about 14 spots. I have him 14 spots ahead of ADP. So McKinnon, he's a guy I'll take towards the end. Carlos Hyde is another guy that I'll take towards the end of the draft. Just a dude that's on a high rushing football team, and we saw what happened last year with Chris Carson. He got hurt, and Carlos Hyde, like we mentioned before, is a guy that fits Seattle's offense perfectly. He's a hard downhill runner that I think could get the job done and end up being a top 15 running back if that does happen. So I don't think Rashad Penny's a threat at all. So, Carlos Hyde, Jerick McKinnon. I love those guys at the end of drafts. Who else did I have in there? We mentioned Dylan. I'll even start taking some shots at Kansas City's backfield again with DeAndre Washington or something like that because, you just start going for players that have talent and are on good offenses that, if the worst case scenario happens, they jump in there and become that dude, kind of like Tony Pollard. That's why I have him so high. If Zeke goes down.
What about Gus Edwards?
Gus Edwards. Yeah, that's a little bit
a tougher one.
That's a little bit more of a tougher one for me just because I think they do have guys that can come in there and, still challenge him for touches. So, they still got Justice Hill. They still got Mark Ingram. They still got Dobbins. So I got all those guys above him. So it'd take a lot to, it'd have to be like what happened to Pittsburgh last year. 2 running backs go down for him to step in there and get any legit carries. So, I mean, if one guy goes down, if Tevin Coleman or Mostert go down, to me, McKinnon's going to be, a top running back. if he starts splitting it 50-50. So, yeah, he'll be that top dude. If Hyde goes down, Carson just jumps right into that spot. So there's not many guys out there that are like that, but I feel like those guys are worth the shot, especially if you keep them on your team for the first week or two, and even if you have to drop them later on, it's just keep them there for a little bit of insurance in case something happens those first couple weeks.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much all I have. You
Yeah,
have anything else you want to touch on?
I think we covered it about everything. So you could listen to the first episode for more of our higher ranked guys, and this will round out some of our sleepers and favorite late round dudes.
Yeah, I think the receiver episodes will probably be the same type of thing as
Yeah,
far as everyone's top 10 is kind of the same as far as that goes.
yeah, we'll
But
go over our top 20, 25, and then jump into exactly what we did here. Would you rather have this guy, that guy, late round sleepers, guys you're targeting with your last pick, and stuff like that?
all right, guys, well, stay tuned. Hit
All
that
right,
like, subscribe, and see you guys next time.
later.
Later.